Dialogue is punctuated with quotation marks and commas. What are they punctuated with? Everyone say it with me. Quotation marks and commas. Punctuating dialogue with the tag at the end, okay? That's very important to know that this right here, said Max, he exclaimed, Max asked. They're all at the end of the sentences, so that's the tag at the end. You also notice that we have quotation marks around what is being said and a comma inside the quotation marks. We also have tags at the beginning of a sentence, so we learn who is saying the words in the beginning. She whispered, I asked, she exclaimed. All of those have tags at the beginning. Again, we have quotation marks, we have a comma, and what's here is we have to capitalize the beginning of what is being said in the sentence. Now let's go ahead and try. I have my whiteboard, my dry erase marker, have your paper and pencil. I'm going to write the entire sentence in one color. It's time for recess, said Mrs. Garcia. Oh, that's Brooks's mom. So in another marker, I'm going to, so I have my sentence written down. In another marker, I'm going to put my quotation marks around what is being said. It's time for recess. That is what Mrs. Garcia is actually saying. So I have it's time for recess in quotation marks. I need to add a comma after recess, so you know to pause. And then I'm going to put a period at the end because she's just saying this. It's time for recess, said Mrs. Garcia. So if your board looks like this, perfect. The next thing we're going to practice is she yelled, be careful. Again, I'm going to write the entire sentence down. She yelled, be careful. Now, what exactly did she yell? What are the exact words that she yelled? If you said be careful, you're correct. So this has the tag at the beginning. We learned she yelled in the beginning of the sentence. So if she yelled be careful, I'm going to put quotation marks around be careful and the exclamation point because that's how she said it. I'm going to put a comma after yelled so we know to pause. She yelled, be careful. And then the last thing I need to do is I need to capitalize be and be careful. She yelled, be careful. Awesome sauce. Moving on to that last one. I want you to do it all by yourself now. What is for dinner? I asked. Now, pause the video so you can work on this last one by yourself. I'm going to work on it as well, and then I'm going to show my board. That's how you're going to check your answer. All right, so ask yourself, what did they actually say? And then what punctuation do I put? All right, pause the video if you need to work on it. If you are done, this is your answer. Quotation marks around what is for dinner. We put a question mark inside the quotation mark since she's asking a question, or I asked the question, and then a period at the end. The next thing we're going to review is addresses. And an address is the location of a home or business. People use addresses to locate a home or business or to send mail. Lots of information we put in an address. We have to put the person who's getting the mail. We have to put the street name. We have to put the city, the state, and the zip code. And it's important to know that we put a comma between the city and the state so that we have a break and we know that that's the city, that's the state. And I know some people have shared with me that we don't do this anymore, but it's good practice to continue using those commas so we know how to use them properly and we can understand mail that's sent to us. We also need to make sure that when we write our addresses in a full sentence, not only do we have the comma, but we have one comma here and a comma here. This way it breaks up the street name, the city, and the state. And I noticed that I have pink letters. Those are capitalized because they are proper nouns. What kind of nouns are they? Proper. Let's practice. So the first sentence, again, I'm going to write this entire sentence down. The library is located at 21802 Ellsworth Road, Queen Creek, Arizona is AZ 85142, period. Now, couple things. We need to add commas, and we got to capitalize the proper nouns. The library is located at 21802 Ellsworth Road. Ellsworth. We need to switch out the lowercase e to put a capital E. Switch out the R in road and put a capital R for road. Okay, so that's the street name, Ellsworth Road. And then what about Queen Creek? Queen needs to be capitalized. Creek, capitalized. Awesome. All of those letters are proper nouns. Now we need to add some commas. The library is located at 21802 Ellsworth Road. That is the street, so I'm going to put a comma after the street. Queen Creek, comma after Queen Creek, because that is the city. And then we have the state at the end. There's our two commas. Now let's actually write this in as if we were writing it on an envelope. So we have the same address, but this time I'm going to make sure that my Queen... Oh, I'm sorry. Now we know who the mail would go to, Queen Creek Library. So make sure when we write Queen Creek Library, we have what capitalized? The beginning of each of those words, because they are proper nouns. So Queen Creek Library is capitalized. Then we have the actual number of the building, 21802 Ellsworth Road. Who knows what we capitalized in Ellsworth Road? If you said the E and the R, you are correct. And then we have Queen Creek. Queen is capitalized, Creek is capitalized. Oh, and then we have this lowercase a and z. We need to make sure that is capitalized because that is the state. And then the zip code is 85142. We do need to add a comma. Where would you add your comma? Where would you add that comma? If you said or right between the city and the state, you are correct. Now let's work on some prefixes. Remember, a prefix is a group of letters that are added to the beginning of a word. The letters change the meaning of the word. Can you think of an example of a prefix? Who can think back to when we talked about prefixes? Think back to that. Suffix is a group of letters that are added to the end of a word. The letters change the meaning of the word. Can you think of an example of a suffix? So that's the end of the word. Now we have this huge chart. What does these prefixes and suffixes mean? You can go ahead and make this chart on your own, or we could just talk about it. So if we have re, that means again, and an example would be rewrite. If I work on pre, what's the meaning of pre? So if I have my chart, meaning and the example, I'm just quickly jotting this down. If I have pre means before. What is a word that uses the prefix before? What about preheat? If I preheat the oven, I'm heating it before the actual baking. Preheat. Good. Let's talk about dis or un. Ooh. Dis or un. What could those mean? Dis and un. Go ahead and write the meaning of those words. If you said not, you are correct. So, if somebody is, let's think, disrespectful. Disrespectful. Ooh, I have a suffix in there too. That means that they are not respectful. And moving on to that full, which you kind of use with disrespectful, full means fill. Full. So filled with. And an example would be careful. If you're careful, you're doing something full of care. And then less and that means with not a lot of. So if you are not careful, you are careless. So we're gonna say without. The meaning is without care, if you are careless. And then lee, in a way that is. So we can even stick with the word careful. The meaning is a way that is. And if I use careful, we can say carefully, quietly. You're doing something in a quiet way, a way that is quiet. So that's our prefixes and suffixes. Now let's talk about these multiple meaning words, which we, again, did not review this past 9 weeks, but we have done this before. And some words have more than one meaning. For example, it's a homograph, so it's got the same writing. Can you think of an example of a homograph? And a homophone, so that has the same sound. For example, the definition of the underlined word, he threw his bat to the ground and ran for first base. The word bat, spelled the same, has 2 different meanings. This word bat, is that used as a flying mammal or a wooden club used in baseball? He threw his bat to the ground and ran for first base. If you think it is a wooden club used in baseball, you are correct, because we're not throwing animals and running to first base. Let's do this next example. The truck pulled up to the front of the house to deliver the blank. Now, I have 2 words that are the different spelling, but they sound the same. Male, M-A-L-E, which means a boy or a man. M-A-I-L actually means mail that you give to somebody. So the truck pulled up to the front of the house to deliver the mail. Are they delivering an actual boy or a piece of paper mail? If you said B, you are correct. And some words have very similar meanings, such as synonyms. The words are similar, but one is often stronger than another. This is when we juiced up those words, or we made the perfect word for that sentence. So here we have our different shades of meaning. We have hot, warm, or burning. Hot, warm, or burning. Which word is the weakest of these words? If you said warm, that's correct. That's like we would start with warm, and then we would increase it a little bit to hot. And then we would increase it to the strongest version, which is burning. They all mean the same, but it's different shades of it. Now we're gonna select the best word to fill in the blank. Jackson was blank to see his best friend after he had been on vacation all summer. Was he glad to see his friend, or was he thrilled? Use our clues from the sentence to help fill this out. Jackson was blank to see his best friend after he had been on vacation all summer. If you are away all summer and you see your best friend, were you just glad, like, I'm happy to see you, but not super happy? Or would you be thrilled, which is an even stronger version of glad and happy? If you said B, you are correct. And finally, we have guide words. And now I know our guide words were kind of tricky, but they are 2 words at the very top of every dictionary page. They tell you the first and the last entry word on the page. A lot of this is alphabetical order. So which word would be on a dictionary page with these guide words? So I'm going to take my whiteboard. I'm going to erase my prefixes and suffixes chart. And I'm going to write all the words down that I have. Happy. I have ice, hill, hand, and help. Now I'm going to rewrite these words in alphabetical order, starting with the first letter.